Have you ever noticed how much of your life revolves around trying to be understood? How much energy you spend making sure no one gets the wrong idea about you? Defending yourself, clarifying, explaining. You tell yourself it's about connection, but it's really about control. The control of how you're perceived, the control of being liked. The illusion that if people approve of you, you'll finally feel safe. But what if that need for approval is the very thing keeping you trapped? You wake up, you check your phone. Before your feet even touch the ground, your nervous system is already scanning. Notifications, messages, the subtle tension of being reachable. You see a message you haven't answered, a silence from someone you wish had replied, and already a small piece of your peace has been traded for attention. This is the world we live in, a world where presence has been replaced with availability, where being seen has been replaced with being seen online. We've confused attention with affection. We've confused validation with love. And somewhere along the way, you learned that your worth depends on how others respond to you. It starts innocently. As children, we adapt. We smile to be accepted. We perform to be praised. We hide what causes rejection. The pattern follows us into adulthood. You shape-shift in conversations, soften your words, shrink your truth. You say yes when you mean no. You agree just to avoid friction. You stay quiet so you won't lose connection. And yet, the more agreeable you become, the less you recognize yourself. You end up surrounded by people who like your mask, not your face. Carl Jung called this the persona, the social mask we wear to function in the world. It's not evil, it's necessary. But when you forget you're wearing it, you start to believe that approval equals existence. You don't just want to be loved. You want to be loved without risk. Think about how exhausting that is. Every message you send, every silence you break, every emoji, every like, is a micro-calculation in the endless game of emotional management. You start living reactively. You check who's watching your stories. You reread texts to see if you sounded too needy. You wait for replies like you're waiting for oxygen. And without realizing it, your sense of self starts to orbit around other people's attention. You become a satellite, never at rest, always revolving around someone else's gravity. Now think about this. The people who truly drain you rarely do it by force. They do it by expectation. They know you'll answer. They know you'll explain. They know that silence makes you uncomfortable, so they never have to face their own. Approval seeking is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It's not loud. It's quiet. It looks like kindness, but it's really fear in disguise. Fear of being misjudged. Fear of being replaced. Fear of being unloved. And here's the cruelest point. When you live to please, you attract people who live to take. Jung once said, "What you resist persists." When you resist disapproval, you invite it. When you try to control how others see you, you hand them the power to define you. The truth is, people will misunderstand you anyway. They'll project their shadows, their fears, their unmet needs onto your silence. They'll call you distant, cold, arrogant. But what they're really saying is, your self-control threatens my control over you. Detachment isn't about being cold. It's about no longer being controlled by the warmth you're desperate to keep. Imagine this. You stop explaining. You stop rushing to respond. You stop trying to fix how others feel about you. At first it feels wrong. You feel guilty. Your mind screams that you're losing people. But slowly something shifts. You notice the space, the quiet between impulses. And in that quiet, you realize that your energy doesn't need to leak into every argument, every apology, every silence you can't stand. You begin to guard your attention like sacred currency. And suddenly, you see the world differently. The constant buzzing of your phone doesn't mean urgency anymore. You stop chasing closure. You stop explaining your worth. You stop apologizing for resting. You start noticing how much of your life was spent reacting to other people's moods, texts, silences, needs. And in that realization, you begin the art of detachment, not as withdrawal, but as reclamation. Krishnamurti said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." We live in a culture that worships attention, that confuses being seen with being valued. But the soul doesn't heal through followers, likes, or applause. It heals through presence. To detach means to no longer perform for an audience you never agreed to entertain. It means you stop explaining your quiet days, your distance, your no. It means you stop proving you're good by bleeding for it. It's remembering that solitude isn't punishment. It's protection. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop performing emotional customer service. When someone accuses you of being cold because you stopped overgiving. When someone guilt trips you because you said no. When someone withdraws affection because you refuse to play their game. And you just let them. You don't chase. You don't argue. You don't beg to be understood. You realize the people who love you for your compliance never loved you at all. There's a kind of power in being misunderstood and not defending yourself. It's not arrogance. It's mastery. It's the quiet power of someone who has nothing left to prove. When you stop reacting, you start observing. You see who panics when you go quiet. You see who tries to provoke you back into old patterns. You see who only loves you when you're convenient. Their reactions become mirrors. And in each reflection, you see your old self. The version of you that needed to please to feel safe. But now, you're watching from a distance. You're learning that silence is not absence. It's presence, distilled. Nathaniel Branden once wrote that self-esteem is the reputation you have with yourself. When you keep betraying your own boundaries, you lose respect for that reputation. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you over-explain what didn't need defending, every time you stay in a room that makes your soul shrink, you whisper to yourself, "My peace isn't worth protecting." But the moment you choose silence over explanation, distance over dysfunction, truth over comfort, something inside you shifts. You begin to trust yourself again. You start rebuilding that reputation. And that trust becomes your anchor. You start moving differently. You start speaking slower. You answer messages when you're ready, not when you're pressured. You leave people on read without shame. You say no without rehearsing an essay in your head. And instead of losing control, you gain it. You stop performing availability. You stop auditioning for love. You stop living like a rescue mission for everyone else's wounds. And what replaces the chaos is calm. Silence becomes your sanctuary. It used to feel empty. Now it feels sacred. You used to fill every pause with reassurance, every conflict with words. Now you let silence speak for you. And it speaks louder than you ever could. Because silence disarms manipulation. It dissolves projection. It separates the real from the performative. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the game. And when you stop feeding the game, you finally step outside of it. People might tell you you've changed. They'll say you've become detached, distant, different. Let them. They don't understand that you're not disappearing. You're returning. You're returning to the self you abandoned every time you said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. You're returning to the center you lost in the noise of trying to be liked. You're returning to your own gravity. You're no longer a satellite. You're the sun. And the right people will orbit you naturally. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And you can't become who you are while living for everyone else's version of you. You can't heal while constantly explaining your pain. You can't evolve while seeking permission for it. Detachment isn't giving up on connection. It's giving up on distortion. It's letting people have their perceptions while you keep your peace. It's choosing clarity over chaos. It's choosing your inner world over the world's noise. And the irony? When you no longer need approval, you become magnetic. Your calm unnerves people used to your compliance. Your boundaries attract those who respect energy. Your silence speaks louder than validation ever could. You become a mirror, not a performer. You become grounded, not grasping. You become free. So now I'll ask you, how much longer will you keep performing the role that drains you? How much longer will you need to be understood before you allow yourself to simply be? When you stop needing people's approval, you stop needing people. And that's when love, real love, finally finds you. Because it's no longer looking for someone to perform. It's looking for someone who's whole, someone like you. If this message resonates, write in the comments, "I choose peace." Because that's what detachment truly is. Peace, self-respect, and the quiet confidence of someone who's finally free.